Okay, so the year was 2016. The Vikings had just finished blowing out the Houston Texans to go to 5-0. And I remember walking out of that Purple Palace that day, dreaming of home field advantage, dreaming of Super Bowls, just this here a little bit. Pie in the sky stuff. And then everything went to shit. Right after that, we went from 5-0 to 8-8 and out of the playoffs. Cut to today, walking out of US Bank Stadium after the Vikings beat the living piss out of the Houston Texans, absolutely dominated them, to the point that I don't even think the score was quite as indicative as to how dominant it really was. I'm kind of adjusting this thing on the fly here. Probably should have made it set before I left, so this is probably a little crooked, but that's okay. Someone say I have a crooked view of the world anyway. And yeah, it's time to dream, Vikings fans, because guess what? We got a really good football team right now that just beat the living piss out of a really good football team, because I think Houston is still a really good football team, just like I think the 49ers are still really good, and we handled them pretty well last week. This was an absolute domination. I can't even remember the last time this team dominated a good team to this extent. It was a massacre. We kicked their ass. It was unbelievable. 34-7, and frankly, it wasn't even that close. I mean, hell, we kind of left some points out there. We had some bad drives here and there. I mean, obviously so did they, but it could have been even more lopsided. I don't know where to start. I mean, I guess you got to start with the defense again, because we turned C.J. Stroud into, he was the rookie of the year last year. Good start to this season. A lot of people picking Houston to go very far, and we turned C.J. Stroud into Bryce Young for one day. Just one day. He was absolutely rattled, and you could absolutely see it very early. And the thing the Texans did that they should not have done, they made it very clear that the noise was working, because I think it was in the second quarter, 3 false start penalties in a row. I've never seen that before. And then they had a penalty the next play, but it got declined because they had thrown incomplete. And they were in field goal range, and they just kept moving backwards because of all the noise. And that was definitely one of the loudest Vikings home games I've been to. It was very, very loud, and it got louder when it became clear that the noise was working. You don't ever let it on. I think it was one guy who was jumping most of the time. Was that Tunsil? You never let it on that the noise is working, because that's just going to make people get louder. And Stroud was incredibly rattled. Threw a pick on the first official play of the game. First play of the game, we're worried about not having Ivan Pace. Well, Grugier Hill, the guy who replaced him, gets the pick on the first play of the game, sets up the offense. And then I forget who got the other one later. That was Bynum got the one later. Movie. And he was rattled, and I forget how many sacks. I think we had 5 sacks. Jonathan Grenard revenge game. He got 3 against his former team. Daniil Hunter, I got the jersey. I wore the Daniil Hunter jersey today, but he had a very quiet game. The only time I heard him was when he roughed Darnold, and for about 5 minutes, everyone in Vikings fandom was holding their breath, because Darnold kind of sat down on the turf and then had to leave the game, and we thought, and everyone's thinking, oh my God, no, how quickly we've become attached to Sam Darnold, partially because of who's behind him. I think if we still had McCarthy there, it wouldn't have been as dire, but and then he only missed one play. Darnold missed one play and came back in, and got a huge ovation. Like, man, he's nothing. nothing's going to make a guy more popular in this town than being a winning quarterback. Although it didn't always work for the other guy. Even when they won, people shit on him. But huge ovation when he came back in. So that we dodged that bullet. Maybe he's got something that could still be an injury. I mean, can't completely rule that out. I think we've seen it happen where a guy gets nicked up in a game, he can still play, but then something happens and he can't play the next week. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So we dodged a bullet there. But yeah, I mean, we shut their run game down. Cam Akers, Vikings legend. I think he had like 21 yards for the game, and he was their leading rusher. Like they couldn't run. Now they got down early. We were up 14-0 after one, so maybe they weren't quite as in a position where they wanted to run. They probably should have run more, just to kind of take some of the heat off Stroud, because Flores was able to just go after him the whole game at that point. But yeah, I mean, just it's unbelievable watching this team so far, because I mean, they gave up. I mean, what have they given up in total in this season so far? Like 30 points, something in that range. Hell, they didn't even give up the garbage touchdown. Here, got the merge happening. They didn't even give up the garbage touchdown in the last minute of the game when Davis Mills was out there, and we had a lot of our second team defense out there. Even then, they didn't concede. I love how they're playing. It's unbelievable. This defense is playing better right now than they ever played under Zimmer, even at the peak, even like 2017. Because they're really making stuff happen. It's absolutely fabulous to watch. But yeah, Grenard 3 sacks. In his revenge game. I mean, obviously that's got to feel great for him. I forget who got the other ones. I think Van Ginkel might have got one there late. And then we have Redmond got one at the kind of late in garbage time too. I think we had 5 sacks. The stats weren't too dissimilar, yardage and everything. Other than the run game, obviously we ran much better than they did. We didn't Darnold's numbers weren't huge, but he threw for 4 touchdowns. He did the full Al Bundy, 4 touchdowns in one game. He got the first one was to Jefferson, nice little movement in the pocket, got out there. Jefferson made a nice cut to the front corner of the end zone, and Darnold got him. The second one was a little crossing thing down by the goal line to Aaron Jones. Third one, a nice little dart to Naylor. And then, what was the last one? Oh, the last one was the little one we didn't, wasn't sure it was actually a touchdown to Munt. So everyone got some Munt cake. The best TD throw of the game that Darnold had got wiped out. He threw one, I think it was right after the near injury. He threw a great deep ball touchdown to Naylor. It got wiped out because of OPI. That I don't know that actually happened. They did certainly on the replay they didn't. They showed at the stadium. They didn't see anything. But and yeah, it could have been worse because we got a fumble recovery wiped off because of a review. We should have had an early fumble recovery. I think it was Gilmore was going to have that one, and then they came back and said, "Oh no, it was an incomplete pass," even though he had 2 feet down and made 2 football moves by my calculations. So I guess you have to make more than 2 football moves now to get your thing counted as a catch. But again, it didn't matter because we dominated them so badly. It didn't matter that a couple of iffy things went against us. But yeah, Darnold was really good. There were a couple of little Darnold roller coaster moments. He took a couple sacks that he didn't need to take. There were 1 or 2 passes that he threw. There was one that he was real lucky wasn't picked off and actually got caught by Jefferson. Kind of a juggling catch by Jefferson along the sidelines at one point. But I mean, you have to feel really, really good about Darnold's play to this point. I mean, if you're a starting quarterback of a winning football team, you're going to be in the MVP discussion. So at this point, Darnold is in the MVP discussion because he's played 3 very solid games for a team that is now, as of now, one of the last 2 unbeatens in the NFC. Maybe I'll do a little roundup of some of the other games here. He's played very, very well. Like he's meeting the high end of everyone's expectation. No one thought this was gonna happen with the guy. Nobody. And I don't want to hear anything. People are like the Darnold doubters. Well, everyone was a Darnold doubter. The whole National Football League was a Darnold doubter. You think he would have settled for a 1-year, $10 million deal if this was what he was going to do anywhere? I don't think he would do this everywhere. I don't think he would be playing this well, but obviously KOC is very good with quarterbacks. Jefferson had a real nice game. I think I don't know how many catches he ended up with, but he got the touchdown. He had a couple other pretty good gainers in there. Naylor's really stepped up without Addison out there. Touchdown, third straight game. I mean, he could have had another touchdown if it hadn't been wiped out. Although that might have been the drive where they scored anyway. He's really stepped up. We're not getting much out of the tight ends, but we could do it. Again, we still got Hockenson in reserve there. We're going to get Hockenson back. In a couple more games. I think they're going to hold him out until after the bye. And then, we've had like about a half of a game of Addison. Like this is not the final form. This offense could get better. They could get significantly better. And we did have some issues with like the O-line was getting beat up there at points in the game. The interior was kind of getting not having fun. Bradbury had a couple penalties, but again, you're facing a good team. Houston's good. This isn't like the Giants game where you blow out a team. You're like, well, it is just the Giants. Houston's very good. Houston's going to be in the playoffs this year. They might win that division again. It's not much of a division at this point, but they're probably going to win that division again, and they're going to be a factor in the playoffs. And you kick their ass 34-7. It's amazing. Aaron Jones had a big game. He did just get over 100 yards. He broke that long one late. I know it had to have killed him to not score on that one. He got caught from behind right at like the 1 or 2 yard line. And then they tried to get him in the end zone, but he actually lost yardage. But and we'll see what his revenge game is next week going into Lambeau, because we get Darnold last week lighting up the 49ers. Grenard with the 3 sacks today. Big game from him. And then next week we got game in Lambeau. We'll see what Aaron Jones has cooked up. But yeah, it's okay to dream. It's okay to dream about what this team can do, because they've already, a case could be made that they've already knocked off the 2 toughest games on their whole schedule, the toughest teams on their whole schedule in the last 2 weeks, and they won both. And frankly, they, not for a handful of mistakes last week, they probably win that one in a round. This is a very good football team, and whether people believe in them or not, I didn't believe in them going into this year, but hey, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw 3-0. Certainly nobody saw 3-0 winning the kind of lopsided, very convincing games that they have. It's okay to just dare to dream what this team can be, because again, they've also done this without one of the best tight ends in football, mostly without Addison, rookie sensation last year. Obviously this week they didn't have Ivan Pace or Dallas Turner, and they still only gave up 7 points to a really good team. I mean, this is a very, very good football team that could get even better from where they are now. Now they're not going to win every game. Even next week is not a gimme. I mean, I don't know what kind of voodoo magic the fucking Packers are using to win these games with Malik Willis. I mean, obviously they played a terrible Tennessee team today, and last week they played what's been a pretty bad Colts team, actually. Although Colts did beat the Bears today, so that's good. Again, the Vikings are one of only 2 undefeateds left. Seattle is playing right now. I think they're playing the Dolphins. And somehow Tampa Bay got beat at home by Denver. I don't know how the hell that happened. Every week so far this year, there's been a score or 2 that is just mind-boggling how that could happen, because Tampa Bay looked like they were one of the best teams in football for 2 weeks, and then they go and lose at home to Denver, to Bo Nix. And the Saints lost The Saints came down to earth finally with their offense. They lost at home to the Eagles. So it's just us and Seattle, top of the NFC, just as everybody predicted. I thought Seattle would be one of the worst teams in football, and I had the Vikings on 7-10. You never know. But this is fun. That was so much fun watching this team just dismantle a good team. It's so much. Not that it isn't fun as hell to dismantle a bad team like you did with the Giants, but to dismantle a good team the way you do, the way they did today. It's so satisfying, and I love everything that this football team is doing right now. The only negatives are like nitpicky type things through 3 games. You can't do anything more than nitpick. And obviously they're gonna lose games. There's gonna be some injuries. I mean, we've already had obviously some injuries, but there's gonna be some obstacles here. But I don't think it's a bad thing to just already be thinking on September 22nd or whatever this is. First, we just started fall. I think this is gonna be a damn good fall. Or autumn, I should say, in this context, I should say. It's a very good autumn ahead for the Vikings, because this is a very good football team. They have now proven it. You can't say, what are they going to say, because Joe Mixon didn't play in this game, that it doesn't count? It was just the Giants, so it doesn't count. Or, Christian McCaffrey didn't play, so it doesn't count. They're going to say, Joe Mixon didn't play, so it doesn't count. Fuck off. This is a very, very good football team. I don't know if probably be crazy to say they're the best team in the NFL, but they probably got about as good of a resume at this point through the first 3 games as just about anybody else. Who else has beaten 2 teams on the caliber of the 49ers and the Texans? Nobody. The Vikings have played fantastic football almost across the board. Through 3, they've had a couple of shaky quarters this season. That's it. They've played great football, and I expect them to continue to play great football, and they might be able to play even better football. This offense should ascend when we get Hockenson back, and when we're able to put Jefferson, Addison, Naylor out there with Hockenson at tight end, Jones and Chandler, and Darnold playing solid football and smart football, and limiting turnovers. Yeah, this team can go a long way, and I don't think it's a bad thing to dream about. I think it's what we want. I think this season has already exceeded everything that I even possibly thought it could be through 3 games, and maybe we're just heading for another collapse. But I really don't think that, because this team has a legitimately ferocious, beastly defense that has now taken apart 2 very good offenses the last 2 weeks. Even without McCaffrey, the 49ers are a good offense, and the Texans are a good offense. Diggs out there. Diggs got booed a little bit. Kind of surprising he got booed. I was kind of surprised. I don't know where he ranks Stroud for best quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe you don't rank him that high because it's just second year, but he was very good all last year. It was good so far this year. And Flores just completely discombobulated the guy. He hit the one time they scored, he had to hit a really just a great deep ball shot on a 3rd long, and then that set up a touchdown. That was it. They hit a couple of plays. They hit a Diggs throwback pass at one point to get a play. I think that was right before all the false starts. This wasn't a fluke. They took apart one of the best teams in football, because I think they are one of the best teams in football, and I think they have to be considered that now. I don't think there's any credible argument that can be made that the Minnesota Vikings, after 3 games, are not one of the best teams in the National Football League. And it's a tremendously exciting start to this season, because even that 2016 season, they weren't tearing teams to pieces that they were playing. like they were winning fairly close games. Like, in this one though, they've had 2 blowouts and a 49er win that probably should have been a blowout, even if it wasn't on the scoreboard, because they kind of had a bunch of self-forced errors or unforced errors in that game, and they just played. I mean, you'd probably have to say this was the best game of the KOC era for sure, because of how they won and who they beat, and it's very exciting, very, very exciting start to this season for the Vikings, and everybody should be very excited, and I certainly am, and I'm almost home, and I'm gonna enjoy the rest of this packed sports day and wait for next week at Lambeau and see if we can take care of some of this Packer voodoo magic that they're using the last couple weeks to win with Malik Willis, and hopefully we can keep this going, and then we would go to London. I'm not personally going to London, but the Vikings will be going to London, and then it's Detroit, and then go on from there. And like this whole, even the schedule has already revealed itself to probably not be as tough as we thought, and we just maybe knocked the 2 toughest games of our schedule off already, and we won both of them in convincing fashion. So 34-7 Vikings win. It's an exciting time, and I think everybody is in Vikings fandom is going to have a really fun next 3 months.